Welcome everybody back to open session. Hang on, let me just get my notes back to where we are. In accordance with board policy, this announcement is to advise all attendees that tonight's board meeting is being recorded. Persons wishing to address the board on any agenda or non-agendized item must fill out a speaker card. I'd like to report out of closed session that direction was given to staff regarding all matters. In closed session, the board took action to approve a settlement agreement regarding a confidential student matter in a special education dispute, resolving all issues in dispute by the following vote. Ayes were Mrs. Miyakawa, Mrs. Talcott, Miss Harvey, and Mrs. Lindsay. Noes were Mr. Raw. And right now I'm looking for a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Forgot to mention this, less item something. Less the item, I think it's E under information and discussion, 9E, which is a facilities and subcommittee policy that's not ready to be presented to the board at this time. So looking for a motion to adopt minus that item.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Raw.
Second.
Second by Ms. Harvey. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Did we lose her?
She stepped out for a
can't
minute.
see
Oh, that's
her.
right. She stepped out for that.
Okay, Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa,
Aye, and Mrs. Lindsay stepped in and ayed the motion. Very good.
Got here under the wire.
Good job. Thank you very much, Vilma. Okay, we'll go ahead with our Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all rise and face your nearest flag, or Cindy's in her pasture. Is that about a southeast position, Cindy? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. This time we'll move forward for our communications item on the agenda. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Mr. Frederickson, do we have any written communication at this time?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. And then we'll go to our public participation. Velma, do we have any notices from the public that need to be read at our board meeting?
I do not have any.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then we'll move on to our information discussion, and we'll start with Mr. Frederickson giving us an update, superintendent's update regarding vaccines and in-person learning. Mr. Frederickson.
Yeah, these are all very hot topics these days, not only locally, but nationwide. You can't turn on the news without seeing some kind of discussion about both of these topics, vaccines and what schools are doing about reopening. So I'll start with vaccinations. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. We work closely with our local public health, and each Friday I have a superintendent's meeting, and Julie Falkenstein from Public Health joins us at those meetings and tries to coordinate and keep us in the loop, the superintendent's in the loop. A week or so ago, we were looking at plans on rolling out vaccinations for the different subgroups and tiers, and educators are in some of that in that first tier. So we were looking at setting up some hubs where they could set up vaccination clinics for different schools to be able to do that. They were feeling hopeful at that time that we could start moving forward with that. Before that even happened, there was also some desire to provide vaccines for office staff that had direct contact with any students that would be in, we call it the COVID room, that had any kind of symptoms or anything like that. So your nurses, your health aides that are part of that, any office staff that would be in there, sometimes the site administrator, if they actually went in that room. And so there was some opportunities for those groups to meet separately and get some vaccines. We had some of those staff get their first vaccination, and then things got put on hold again. And then they're looking at next week or the following week to open that back up again for that group. But right now they want to target those individuals who got their first shot so they can make sure that the second vaccination is given in time. So again, this is a constant fluid moving situation. Last Friday, we were given an update. Our county was promised to have about 38,000 vaccines available. Just over 500 arrived. So that gives you an idea of the impact that's happening with our local public health. They were trying to make plans. They've been on top of it. But for them, what's happening is the promised vaccines are not arriving. And then you add a change in the levels of who is eligible, moving from people at age 75 and over down to age 65 and over. Really sent that availability, it changed it greatly. So at this stage, we don't have a set time when we will be setting up our offering. Again, I want to make this known right now. The way they're referring to it right now is that we're offering vaccines for that. There's not any really clear directives at this point about any requirements for a vaccine. We're receiving very little at all from the state. At this point, their word is offering. Well, even their offering hasn't arrived yet. So I don't think, again, that's a challenge. So we're trying to keep our labor groups informed as much as possible. There's a lot of rumors out there, trying to eliminate any kind of rumors. At this point, there's been no other employees in our school district besides the ones I just mentioned that have even been offered any vaccines, unless they went to some other site outside of our school. So again, as soon as we find out more information from public health, I will give some directives out and some information so we know where we are. We did do a survey earlier. Carrie Albert sent it out to our staff, just seeing how many staff are even interested if that, and we provide that to public health to help them with their planning. So that's where we are with vaccines. Hopefully by Friday, I'll hear some more updated information. Now, regarding reopening, again, that's been very fluid. We received new guidance on the 16th of January from the California Department of Public Health. It was tied into the proposal that the governor was making about safe schools and trying to get his reopening plan that hadn't passed by the legislature. And from what I read this last weekend, doesn't look like that proposal is favoring well. So, and there's a lot of factors for that. But at this point, the challenge is that new guidance still applies. So it was really tied to his proposal, and yet the guidance arrived and has required all of us to start scrambling around trying to meet that new guidance. We'll be talking under item F, safety and facilities. We'll be talking about the COVID safety plan. That was one of the new requirements in the guidance. Also different regulations on social distancing, and again, a lot of those factors. And it also talked about trying to explain the difference between schools that have opened and those that haven't. It talks about what tier you're in, which could be purple, red, orange, that the governor had set up. It is very convoluted. You just have to really dig into the language to find out. And we had a lot of questions at our Friday meeting about, okay, what if you're a school that's already reopened? And the guidance we received from public health is if you reopened at that school site and those grade levels were attending, you can continue to reopen. The challenge is, so you've got that guidance from the California Public Health, then you have your local public health. Our public health officer has said that you can continue with the grades that are there, but you're not permitted to expand. And we got some criteria finally on Friday, because we weren't quite sure, well, what is it we need to know? What are we looking for? What is going to be the trigger that allows us to start bringing back the students that we hadn't brought back yet? And that is that metric of 25 per 100,000 cases. Now, I don't know all the science behind this. Again, I'm not a public health specialist. I try to read a lot. I try to speak with people from public health. There is, their concern where we were in January, we were up above 80 per 100,000. And that has just started to come down. I think last week we were just about 50, and there's projections that we could be close to 25 or below in 2 weeks. So mid-February. There's even discussions that maybe by March we could be back into the red, which opens up additional doors for us to look at our other grade levels. The challenge with all that is they're also looking at that new strain. So there's caution in the wind, because there's this feeling that the new strain that could arrive, that variant, in March. And then that could have an impact on the rates going back up again. So I just think people just need to understand, this is so fluid. We move forward with the plan, we get new guidance, we get some new direction from public health about being open or not being able to open. And then we get moving forward again, and then it changes again. So we've really worked hard trying to put up a plan for the first trimester. So again, we've been working on our surveys, selection forms that'll be going out to our families on the 5th of February. And it will be for parents that have students in TK through 5, but I continually make the notice on 4 and 5 that is depending on public health approval. So we're thinking optimistically and planning that is going to happen with the intent of getting those selection forms back from parents on the 9th, and then starting all the work that's required. Right now, we're about 60% that have been in person and 40 that are on distance learning. I have no idea what's going to come out on the 9th. Again, I don't know if people are going to be looking at, wow, look at where we've been. I'm feeling like not comfortable sending my kids to school, or, hey, March is coming, the rates are coming down. I'm optimistic, and so I want my kids to be in school. So that's kind of, again, it's a moving target, and we're going to try to plan accordingly. But the 9th, we should have a clearer picture, and then work with the site principals to start working on the logistics of that, with the intent notifying parents around the 25th or 26th of what their assignments will be, and roll it, make the change on March 1st. But again, I could be saying all of this right now, and I might have something brand new show up tomorrow or the next day. And again, trying to keep people in the loop with that. Any questions about any of those topics?
Looking for questions from the board. Mrs. Lindsay?
Yes. Sorry, stuck a cracker in my mouth. Eric, the strain that's coming supposedly in March, will we have to follow the same procedures as we are now, as certain number percentage and shutting down the classrooms and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the metrics and all of the things they've established will still be, I think we'll have an idea of what will happen. It'll be more if we see it starting to take off, public health will notify us on, you've now moved into deep purple again. We're still in deep purple, is what they're referring to us as. but it's moving down more toward the purple range and hopefully closer to red.
Okay, and are the private schools having to meet these same standards or are just public schools?
No, very clear in the new guidance. This applies to all schools in California, including private.
So even the ones that have already started back and have the full K-12 or K whatever?
They have to meet all of the same requirements and related to face coverings, social distancing. Yeah, they're also required to do that. And I don't know who the enforcers are.
I'm just referring to that video that we looked at, and there was no social distancing and there was no shields in the private schools that we observed. And so I'm just was wondering, why are they not required to do that?
Yeah, again, that's an enforcement issue, and that really is, I don't know what public health takes as far as who's doing that. I know now that we're required to, there's now a new site at the California Department of Public Health where we have to each week submit what our numbers are. And part of our plan is we have to put what grades are in person and how many students are attending. So that has to be posted on your website.
Including private schools then?
Yep.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for Mrs. Lindsay. Ms. Harvey, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just want to, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Mr. Frederickson and the leadership team. This has not been easy for you guys, and I know. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys are probably stretched really thin. And I want to say thank you to the teachers, because even though the kids aren't in school, I know that they're teaching so hard and they're innovating and they're making stuff up as they go, because my goodness, everything changes so fast, and they're trying to work with these kids who are heartbroken. Kids are handling it no problem. So I want to say thank you to them and all the support people out of all of our schools, because again, we're almost on a year in this, and it's just, I see it, I feel it, I see it in my students, I read it, and it breaks my heart. And and to the families, I mean, thank you for your patience and your understanding. I mean, this is not the way we wanted any of this to be, and I know everyone is just working so hard and helping your students be safe and be successful. And we're not going to talk about learning loss, because it's too heavy, and it's not real, and it's not realistic, and it's not fair. And I just love the fact that we're just teaching our kids and we're giving them experiences that the best we can. And I just want you, and I know that's kind of like, I mean, with gratitude, just, and it just, thank you. I really appreciate everything, and I'm so proud of what everyone has done as a community, and you guys as a leadership, and our teachers, and everyone who supports all our teachers. Just, this is not easy, and it's tearing, it's bright. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
really
Harvey.
appreciate it.
Very well said. Any other questions or comments by board members? Okay, seeing none. Yeah, I would just second what Ms. Harvey said. Today, my husband sent me a photograph that he took at the crack when he left for work, and it had this beautiful half rainbow, and then as he drove to work, a complete arch. I've never seen a complete arch all the way, but his camera on his phone on his car caught it, and it was just beautiful. And I just thought, oh, I'll just take that today, because today was a day. And so just sometimes we just need a little hope and a little shot in the arm that we're doing all right and we're doing the best we can. And I was sitting next to my high schooler, just trying to keep her, I don't know, I was doing my stuff and sitting next to her, and I was just watching her cute little band teacher, just trying to interact with these kids and ask them funny questions and reading the responses next to it. And just like Ms. Harvey said, I just appreciate, whatever effort you're making to reach through that screen, because 6 hours on a screen is no fun for anybody. So thank you, Ms. Harvey, for that. That was very nice. Okay.
Just wrapping up my report.
Yes, please.
In my communications to our community, I know my communications, they're pretty factual. And there's so many important things that I need for them to see, and things change so often. And again, I don't put in there, how I know it's a challenging time for people. I don't spend a lot of time with that, but I just want people to know we care so deeply for our kids and for what the impact it's having on families. I mean, that is not even, that's a given. And so I just want our community to know, if they're listening, is that we want our children back in school. We want them to be there safely. We appreciate the staff, all the hard work that they're doing. I mean, it's amazing the work they're doing. Again, my communications, I just got to get out there the facts, and because they change so quickly, and I just want people to focus on that. But just know, behind all of that writing is a team that cares very greatly for our students and
Thank
parents. Yeah.
Jan?
Very much. Yes, Mrs. Lindsay.
I think that now that we're in the public, I don't know how much public is out there right now, but, and thank you, Christine, because having two teachers in my family, I can relate to exactly what you're saying about teachers. But I do think that our community needs to know how absolutely terribly hard our superintendent and assistant superintendents and all their support staff has been working. I drive this man insane. I call him on a regular basis with everything that's happening. And I just kept to tell you that I really appreciate how hard he walked into a cold, empty office with no welcoming, and just hit the ground running. And so appreciate him and our other assistant superintendents and directors for everything that they're doing to keep everything. I mean, I don't think people realize the amount of work they do. And I surely want people to know that.
Wonderful.
So thank you, Eric. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much. All right, let's go ahead and move on to some great news, shall we? Let's go to our presentation on our Employees Making a Difference recognition for this year. Dee Dee.
Oh,
Everyone is so excited to have this back this year. Of course, we're not doing it like we normally do, but everyone's been invited by their nominators to watch this presentation. Thank you to Velma for her work on getting certificates of recognition, and for President Miyakawa and Mr. Fredrickson for executing those as well. Those will be sent to the site. So good evening. I have the absolute privilege of helping recognize our district nominees for Employees Making a Difference. Employees Making a Difference honors outstanding classified employees. Here in Sylvan Union School District, we celebrate our classified leaders and heroes. These are the folks who faithfully serve and support our staff, students, and families every single day. And we literally cannot do this work and serve and have those servant hearts without them. So I'd like to celebrate the following people. Lynette Kaiser, who is the Library and Media Assistant, nominated by Jean Wiersma at Freedom. Lynette is an amazing part of the Freedom family. She takes initiative and is always on board to lend a hand. She always has great ideas for encouraging reading, wearing masks, and supporting students in their literacy development. She is student focused and always looks for ways to connect with students, families, and staff. During our school closures, she's morphed into tech support for admin, teachers, families, and students. She's always willing to help with troubleshooting any technology issue. Lynette is truly a gem who supports her Freedom family all the days and all the ways. Thank you, Lynette. We'll do a little clapping at the end too. Okay, we can clap in between. That's good. Okay. Jennifer Leanna from Orchard. She's noon duty supervisor. And Mrs. Quinteros, Angela Quinteros, is her nominator. Jennifer's an amazing team player. In the last 5 years, she has really become a team leader for noon duty staff at Orchard. She takes feedback and new ideas and implements them immediately, offering feedback of her own. So administration's always in the loop. She's great with students too. Her demeanor is always calm, caring, and positive. She gets to know the students' personalities and uses that to communicate with them effectively. She is great at leading students through problem-solving conversations and coming up with ideas for positive interactions. Also want to let you know that Jennifer was recognized at the county level for the employees making a difference and earned a very special award, the Jane Johnston Civility Award. This is an extraordinary honor. There are many, many people nominated for this, and it is an absolute wonderful thing that Jennifer received that award. You may have seen her in the Modesto Bee. People who earn this award are honored for their ability and gifts to listen, respect other people's time, accept and give praise, not shifting responsibility and blame, acknowledging others, respecting others' opinions, speaking kindly, accepting and giving constructive criticism, refraining from idle complaints, not speaking ill, apologizing sincerely, and thinking the best. So Jennifer, we thank you. We'd like to honor Judy Frosto, a paraprofessional nominated by Teddy Velpel at Sylvan STEAM Academy. Judy is an exceptional paraprofessional. She works with students in the resource program, providing small group instruction and one-to-one support. Judy goes out of her way to make connections with students to support their emotional, social, and behavioral needs. She provides insight into reward systems for the students. In addition, she's eager to help with any projects on campus, always volunteering when there is a need. Judy, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We'd like to honor Grace Luke, Office Manager Extraordinaire from Woodrow, nominated by Joanna O'Brien. A friendly smile and a calm professional demeanor are the characteristics of Grace Luke. She is usually the first person you will meet at Woodrow School. Her knowledge of procedures and systems keeps that office running smoothly, even with the multiple changes that have occurred during this pandemic. Grace connects with children and their families, and they trust her. In the office, her sense of humor keeps things light, and she's a great partner to have when we have to make home visits. Grace makes a difference in the lives of our students, their families, and our staff through her true care and commitment to excellence. We thank you, Grace. Next, we'd like to honor Tawny Van Loon, paraprofessional at UStack Middle School, nominated by Deanne Andrade Freitas. Tawny is one of the most caring, responsible, and sincere people on campus. She is student-focused, works well with families, and supports all the teachers to ensure student success. When new curriculum was given to students, she helped institute a weekly drawing to encourage students to have assignments turned in, complete classwork, and successful quizzes and test scores. Tawny is actively engaged in the classroom instruction so she can help all students achieve. She does not allow students to give up, and she will find any way to help. Cheers to you, Tawny. We'd like to honor Heather Grigsby, our library and media assistant at Somerset Middle School, nominated by Scott Ferreira. Heather is a true team player. Since joining Somerset as our LMA in 2018, she has completely revamped the library. Her passion for our students is seen in all she does. Heather decorates the library based on themes of the season or creative ideas. Under Heather's leadership, the library's become a student favorite before school, during breaks, and after school when our kids are there. The connection she makes with our students and families is invaluable, especially now. Heather can be counted on to troubleshoot most tech issues before asking for help at the district level. During these tough times for so many, she brings happiness, a helpful hand, and joy to so many families in our district. Oh, and she's adored by our staff here at Somerset Middle School, home of the Tigers. Roar. I maybe should have said that louder. Roar. I don't know. Congratulations, Heather. We celebrate you. We'd like to honor Mary Martinez at the district office. She's our Ed Services Secretary, nominated by Laura Granger. Mary Martinez is a thoughtful, conscientious employee. During the recent school closures, she's worked tirelessly to ensure that students and staff have the necessary materials, whether they're working in classrooms or they're learning at home. Mary works well with the public. She's often faced with calming, very upset, flustered parents who call to voice their concerns about either curriculum or instruction. And she works well with departments and site staff members. She works closely to coordinate curriculum support with the warehouse, LMAs, OMs, that's office managers, principals, and teachers. Her kindness and professionalism has earned her a positive reputation with our vendors and reps who also enjoy working with her. Because of her positive relationships, these vendors often make things happen when Mary asks. Mary is extremely organized and able to track many and varied aspects of the Ed Services Department. She takes great pride in her role in supporting teachers and students. We have 3 more. Congratulations, Mary. We have 3 more to honor, just kind of give you an idea. I'd like to honor Rob Chapin, our grounds maintenance and operations, nominated by Sean Smith. Rob has been a tremendous asset to the grounds department since he started with the district in 2019. He came to us with decades of experience in the landscaping business as a self-employed contractor. His professionalism and attention to detail is really appreciated and is helping the entire grounds crew meet our goal of providing better service to the district. Rob's experience has benefited the department in many ways, including best practices and techniques for helping make the job safer, easier, and also keeping the shop and service vehicles more organized. The results of the site speak for themselves, and here at M&O, we couldn't be happier with the job Rob has been doing for us. We feel very fortunate to have him as a team member. Great job, Rob. Next, we'd like to honor Grace Fitch, who was nominated by me, Dee Dee Peterson, here in Human Resources. Grace, as the COVID queen, has taken on the task and responsibility of COVID tracker and chief communication officer for everyone in our community. She has built an amazing knowledge of all things COVID. Her calm and professional demeanor are appreciated. She's built a positive connection with the county public health for both sharing and gathering information for Sylvan. Her positive personality and genuine empathy help support so many people as we face this uncertain landscape. She supports employees, sites, and departments and approaches each interaction with compassion and care. Her work and consistent communication and follow-up have made all the difference as we continue to work through this new landscape. Her great laugh, and if you ever heard Grace laugh, it's awesome, and happy spirit help not only our HR team, but everyone in the district. Thank you, Grace, for being who you are and for all you do to support our community. All right, last but not least, we want to celebrate Hilda Rios, childcare teacher, nominated by Sarah Calderon. I want to let you know that Hilda was also celebrated at the county level at EMAD last month. So congratulations to her for that extra honor. Hilda has been invaluable to our department for the 20 years she has worked here. This past year, has been one of the most challenging and unprecedented. Hilda helped with innovative ideas to help our program open for kiddos in the summer. She showed great compassion when teaching our little ones to wear masks all day, which can be trying for little people and people of all ages. She was able to provide fun and interesting activities for everybody while 6 feet apart. Hilda continues to be a leader while providing employee childcare, helping staff with on-site questions and delivering much needed support on the spot help with our little ones still trying to navigate their distance learning. She has remained positive during these uncertain times and is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Hilda. So if you can please join me in one more round of applause for our nominees. Thank you for celebrating with us. And again, we want to share our deepest thanks and gratitude for your service and commitment to our students, our families, and staff. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Dee Dee. I've forgotten how much I missed the celebratory nature that, that we used to start all our board meetings with. So that one felt good. Thank you. We're in the people business, and I've always said that some of the best people you'll ever meet are those that have chosen education and whatever its avenue as a vocation. And we sure appreciate you and all you bring of yourself to the game. So thank you very much to all of you who are honored tonight and your families, and for making Sylvan what it is. So thank you. Okay. With that, I misplaced my. Okay. From here, we'll go back. We'll go back into it with our COVID one-time fund update. Lizette, take it away.
I know, I get to follow that. That's a tough act to follow.
Yeah.
But I'm here to provide information, so I will do that. Okay, well, this is good news. I'm sharing an updated picture of our overall COVID funding. Oh, let me share my screen. I got a little excited here and forgot. Okay, so some of you may recall this was the original COVID funding document that I provided when we first started looking at just what COVID funds were coming our way. And I went back to this one as a good reminder of the overall picture of COVID funds, and two, also to update it with the new funding that is scheduled to be coming our way, and then just an update on the funding that we have utilized. So let me just start from the top and work my way down here. And remember, I have it color coded, and it corresponds to the color coding and different kind of categorizing them together. So starting at the top, we have some state COVID funds, about 137,000, definitely our smallest pot of funding. And you see that here. The other part that I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, is that I added a couple of categories or a couple of columns here to show not only the allocation or amount that is coming our way, but how much, if any, has been spent and what is remaining. And then I have totals for that at the bottom. So we'll go through that on each of these. So the top one, like I said, is the state smallest portion of all of our COVID funds. And then the other critical piece is this timeline for use here over towards the right. And you can see for this particular pot of funds, it is open. There's not a specific time frame for the utilization of those funds. And then the next one here in the purple is what we refer to as ESSER, and it will become the original ESSER because on the bottom you'll see I have now ESSER 2, which is the new federal stimulus funding. But looking at this ESSER funding, this is federal funds. We have 1.2 million. We have not utilized that, and the time frame for that is March. It started March. Most of these all started going back to March of last year, and we have until September of 2022 to utilize this. Okay. And then in green here, and I have a few different shades of green because all of the green is part of what we refer to as learning loss mitigation funds that all were a part of the learning continuity plan, if I remember correctly, the LCP that you approved last year, well, the fall of this past year. And so these funds are based in part in that LCP, but also some of them each have individual requirements and timeframes. So this first top one is learning loss, but specifically what is you may see referred to as GEER funds, GER, and that's 528,000, and the time frame for that is also through September of 2022. Okay, and then this next darker green section is the funds, the learning loss mitigation funds that we have been looking at month over month over these past board meetings, and that we have the specific time frame of getting that spent through December of this past year. You know, we had been talking about that at every single meeting and providing you updates and ensuring that we were going to meet that time frame, because between the three of these, we're talking about just under $4.4 million. And we did work to get those funds spent towards meeting those needs. And then I added a little note that, you know, at the last hour in the federal approval of the new stimulus funds that came our way, the federal level, we were granted an extension, a whole nother year, granted for most districts, 3 days, you know, 3-4 days before the end of the deadline. Virtually most districts had spent that money, from what I hear. I'm sure there was some that hadn't, but you know, most of us weren't taking those kinds of chances and were actively working to spend that and not anticipating that extension coming through until the last hour like it did. So those, if you see here, I've illustrated that they're spent, and we have 0 funds remaining for those 3 pots. The next green section is also learning loss, but again, a small chunk of that is a state portion, and it's 621,000. If you remember, that pot was initially part of the December 31st total that we had to spend, But this is the funds, and you'll see I have represented, we're working towards spending that, about 274 spent, 347 balance, because that, as of right now, has a expenditure deadline through June 30th of this year. So again, that used to be all part of it. They broke it out and allowed us 6 extra months to spend that chunk. Okay. And then down here in the dark purple, I wanted to keep it purple to kind of tie it in with that original ESSER, but this is what we'll be referring to as ESSER 2 funds, part of the new federal stimulus package that was passed again December 27th. And this is a significantly large portion, larger than what we have seen before, and about 6.3 million. These are preliminary allocation estimates based on school services, which has many times provided a lot of solid budget projections for us. And in the last round of funding, when we looked at those projections, we actually ended up getting just slightly higher than what was projected by them once we actually had confirmation from the California Department of Education in terms of our exact amounts. So this is an estimate at this point, but regardless, it is a healthy estimate of a large portion of funds that we are awaiting confirmation, and we will be one-time funds that in the new stimulus funds, in this new stimulus package, they specifically added a couple of different categories of allowance to use this. And I've spoken about this a little bit. I mentioned this in some Friday updates. But those two categories revolve around facility repairs and improvements. You can see there is specifically to reduce risk of virus or just overall exposure to environmental health hazards and to support student health needs. And 2 projects to improve possibly indoor air quality in school facilities. So 2 wonderful additions, in our opinion, to give us some flexibility and as we look at the use of these funds, and possibly some things to not only help with our current conditions, but also possibly some current conditions that will have some long-term benefits as we look at our overall needs in those areas. So when we look at all of this funding all together here, you see I have a total of 13.3 million, with us currently being at about 4.6 million spent and about 8.6 million remaining that we have various different time frames to work towards spending. And down here, I have broken it up into a summary and a couple different ways you can look at it. Probably the most interesting here is by timeline, with the 4.4 there in the green that we have just finished spending, the 621 that we're working on, we need to spend by June, 1.7, just under 1.8 million that we need to spend by September of 2022. And then this new ESSER funding, the ESSER 2 of 6.3 million that we have until September of 2023, according to everything we've read and seen that's come our way. So that would extend us out nicely for at least a good 2+ years to plan out and spend these remaining funds. And then we have that little chunk of the 137,000 that I mentioned. That's an open timeline, again, tying back to the overall 13.3 million of funds. So that is, and then over here you have it by funding source. Probably not quite as exciting for you, just breaks it out into some of the different pots and whether it's federal or state funded. So I just wanted to, again, give you an overall, kind of take a step back from the 4.4 that we've been focused on getting spent and provide an overall snapshot. We are awaiting really some additional guidance on this biggest pot and the confirmation by CDE. And really, you know, you always learn, and with these new funds, we've learned that some of the categories and reporting requirements will be coming to us later. And so we're trying to see when that information comes our way so that we can plan accordingly and categorize these into those corresponding reporting categories that will be required, and just to facilitate the overall tracking and reporting of these funds, and then be able to bring that to you in that format in a more detailed report that we can provide you, similar to what we did with that 4.4 million. And if you remember, I had different sections according to what tied back to the LCP, that the in-person instruction versus distance learning. And so I had that broken up into those different categories. And so we haven't received exactly what that's going to look like for some of these new funds. And when we get that, we will tailor and align our tracking and reporting accordingly, and then be providing you some more details as we work on the spending and plans for these funds. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, Ms. Aguilar, thank you. That was very instructive. Appreciate this graph was very easy for me to read and understand. Appreciate that. Looking for questions or clarifying questions from board members. Yes, George. And then Cindy.
I just wanted to let you know I raised my yellow hand.
Good.
I had sent a question earlier and was wondering if, in addition to that nice spreadsheet we had, can we continue to get the other spreadsheet that actually shows how we spent the money? This kind of showed us how we get it. The other one keeps it in the other direction. I was wondering if that would be possible.
Correct, yes. And that's what I was alluding to, but I'll clarify more that yes, as I'm waiting to get some of those categories of how exactly we will need to be reporting and the restrictions around these different categories for the funding, just to help align everything. It makes it much easier when we can set up our system, our accounting system, to track as such and have that pull into a report that is just, aligns all the way, particularly for purposes of reporting to you and meeting all of our audit requirements. So yes, the short answer is yes. And as soon as we get that, we'll set that up, and it may look a little bit different, but we'll definitely provide you a more detail than this. This is a high level summary.
Thank you. Cindy?
Yes, mine kind of tie together. In the dark green, this is the money that we've already basically spent by December the 20th, even though they've extended it now till the December 2021. In that, there was probably some of the things that are in the purple, the dark purple down here, as far as meeting the requalifications for a virus transmission and exposure and things like that. Can we take and move, since they've extended it, is this solid, or can we move things out of that green into the purple and free up some of that green money for other things, like possibly deferral payments or other things? Or is it solid in concrete that we can't move it around?
That's a great question, Mrs. Lindsay. Actually, what's in solid green, we have done our final reporting because we were required to do reporting when that window closed. But it's opened again. Right. And so we don't know what that's going to look like. They've said they're going to extend it, but the federal extension has actually been granted through December. But at our state, they're actually looking at that deadline and deciding whether that is going to remain or whether it will be shortened to, I've heard discussions of like April. But the other point is that the funds in the green are actually the most restrictive. They have more parameters around the requirements of spending in those, and tied more into our LCP and those actions that we listed in response to COVID and learning loss. So it wouldn't particularly be beneficial to free up the more restrictive dollars, because these dark purple have a lot less restriction, including what we discussed in our budget study of the not having the supplement supplant requirement. So we can possibly look at moving some funds that may perhaps be in general fund, but we can say these are due to the learning loss mitigation and a response to COVID that we'll be looking at in the rest of this year and the coming year, and utilize those towards, utilize that dark purple ESSER 2 funding for that. It's much more flexible to be able to do that versus the dark green.
It just looks kind of rigid to me because it's got, you can only use it for 2 explicit reasons, and that's pretty rigid.
No, actually, the 2 were additional. It has, if you look up at the light purple, it has very broad discretion to use ESSER funds. And then in addition to that, they added, you can also use it for facility and air quality projects.
Oh, okay. So it isn't just for that then. So these 2 purples can be combined and spent.
If you think of it, yeah, that way, yes, they can be. You still have to adhere to the different timelines, but the light purple has, the only difference is the light purple does not have the ability to use it on facility and air projects like the dark purple has. So the dark purple is really the most, almost the most flexible. Actually, the light yellow is probably the most, but it's only 100, not only, but in the grand scheme of things here, it's 137,000 versus the dark purple is 6.3 million.
So just, you know, I'm just going to drive you nuts about this.
No, it's okay.
Where does the deferral sit in this?
The deferrals is not a part of this. This is
Can't be
complete-
used in any way, shape, or form, huh?
Well, depending on when we receive these funds, if we actually receive the cash,
In time.
the cash could help offset some of the deferral because the cash is just sitting there, and it's, I mean, if we use it and then it's part of our general fund, that's up to us. But I mean, it would just be a temporary
It would have to be paid back.
help. Oh yeah, absolutely, it would have to be paid back. And then the question is, when will we actually receive these funds? We haven't received a time frame on that.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just excited because I thought, okay, great. They've extended it to 2021. That means we can, all the things that we quickly tried to spend that money on, we could move around and possibly use them in the purple now and, or even in the green, but not so, huh?
Not so at this point in time. And like I said, it really wouldn't be beneficial at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now we're in the age of color-coded currency.
I know.
Are we talking
Jen, you know my
purple dollars or yellow dollars? What, you're gonna have to color
You know,
code it before you.
Now I'm gonna have purple dollars.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've always had pretty generic green dollars for so long, so time to shake it up a little bit. Well, thank you. Just, you know, as a final note, as we're entering into budgetary discussions and considerations, while we're very grateful for this extra funding that is coming through for its ability to help us keep our lights on and our kids safe, we have to recognize that this is one-time money. And so as we're talking long-term budget decisions, it's very hard to make on short, you know, one-time money. So it looks like a big pot of money, but there is a bottom to that pot of gold. And so it just so that those who listen to these discussions understand that is how we have to consider it when it's spent. So if there's no other questions or comments by board members, we'll go ahead and go on. Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar.
I just would like to assure anyone listening that Lizette can find a way to spend that money really quick.
I'll say it about so many other things I say. It's definitely a team effort.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. I'm at certificated substitute pay increase proposal for 2021. That's, I'm sorry, I don't remember who is covering
It's
that.
me.
Okay, thank you, Dee Dee.
You're welcome. So for the board's information and review, we're bringing a proposal. We continue to experience high levels of needs for substitutes, actually for all staff, but this focus is on for certificated staff. We have those higher days on Mondays and Fridays, but we're also experiencing absences due to the requirements of COVID-19 quarantine and isolation windows as directed by public health or medical providers for our employees. So we continue to recruit and work to hire our teacher substitutes to fill both our in-person and distance learning pathways. And I've provided several board updates, not only about sort of the absenteeism patterns and the needs. That was even back in December, where I was giving you attendance snapshots. So you could see how many people were out on a given day and how many we were tracking for COVID and then other absences. Despite our best efforts, we are still continuing to struggle to fill the teacher substitute positions. And other area districts have increased their substitute rates of pay. Thank you to board members who posed some questions. Both larger and smaller districts have raised their rates and are paying substitutes $200 as the daily rate. That includes the larger districts and even smaller kind of nearby districts like Riverbank or Salida. The increased sub rates have been discussed in the superintendent and CBO meetings, and both Mr. Fredrickson and Ms. Aguilar have been reporting those to us as well. It is a topic of discussion and we've held off. We have not increased, and we've held to our current sub schedule, which I did provide also a copy for your reference. We waited to request this increase and we're bringing it to the board now as it's becoming evident that hiring new substitutes is proving even more difficult. Over the last 10 school days, one of our board members asked, like, in the last 10 days, what has it been like? I'm going to tell you, it's been tight since November. Prior to winter break, it was all hands on deck. In the last 10 days, we've been short certificated substitutes every day. In this 10-day period, when we're unable to cover those, we find other ways to do that. We manage the shortage with instructional coaches, and we can't thank them and our ELD literacy specialists enough. Our site administrators are subbing part or all day. Some of them are subbing in several distance learning classrooms at the same time, as well as other teachers who are pitching in and helping their colleagues and working with their teams. There's been multiple instances where we've had to flex staff, and we call it jigsaw. An administrator will take one person for one period and another and kind of put together coverage for a classroom when we have a vacancy or an absence we're not able to fill. For example, on January 19th, we had 39 certificated absences. 9 of those were completely unfilled. We had no one to fill them. 16 were filled by substitutes, and 14 were uncovered but covered some other way. So somebody else either helped do that, or if they're in a position, we have canceled groups for counselors that we didn't have a sub for, or we've canceled ELD literacy specialists. Again, none of these choices are our first choice, and we're here to serve the kids in both pathways, and we really want to get that done. And so I wanted, with both, the support and direction of cabinet and Mr. Fredrickson coming to the board and just talking a little bit about that substitute shortage we've been talking about the substitute shortage forever. But all the other districts are paying more, and we are at a disadvantage because of that. So I'm bringing to you just for information and your proposal, and then an action item later. And I'm open to any questions that you may have, and I will do my best to answer those.
Great, thank you, Dee Dee. Ms. Harvey.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson, when the positions are filled by a substitute, and you say they're filled in by other, like the counselors and the admin or not counselors?
Not counselors.
Okay.
No, counselors can do supervision, but not the teaching.
Right. Okay. So that was my
Yeah.
question. The people that do fill in, they all have their certificate, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
often it will be our ELD literacy specialists. Our instructional coaches have been
Okay.
so incredibly flexible doing that. Then and our administrators. Absolutely. And even our program specialists. So our program specialists at the district level have subbed in special ed classrooms. They've helped provide support at the site. So truly it is all hands on deck. Everybody's pitching in.
And then with this increase, how much do you think it will increase your retention of or gaining subsidy? You think you're in more, or you think they're all going to be filled, or don't need?
I hope it works. I think other districts are reporting that it helped, initially. We're all
Okay.
competing for the same people. And I'm
Right.
going to be honest with you. One of the reasons we held off is because we really have very committed subs
Yeah.
who work for us all the time, and they're
Mhm.
not getting paid as much as they could other
Right,
places,
yeah.
but they stay with us because the sites and the staff and the teachers make really good connections with our substitutes. They really become preferred subs. And so they find a home, and they often will go to those same sites over and over again, and they feel welcome and appreciated. And I think often that goes a really long way and has carried us for a long time. But I think we're at a point now too, where, if you can get paid some, more money someplace else, then that is an additional factor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Lindsay?
Yes, I noticed on the first paper that you gave us, the
Mhm.
showing you had more steps in it than you
Mhm.
did on the second one.
Correct.
Why did you leave out a couple of those?
Well, the way it's created now is that when people first come in, and if you remember, we did increase our sub rates a couple years ago
Yes.
to remain competitive. And so the way that this was structured is that when you first come on your first 20 days, you're paid the 135. After you've done 20 days of service in the district, it doesn't need to be consecutive. You jump up to 150. And then those other rates are higher because you've agreed to take on a long-term position. And when you take on a long-term position as a substitute, you are meeting with parents, you are doing parent conferences, you are doing progress reports, you are doing report cards, you are meeting with the collaborative teacher teams. You really are part of that. And a lot of our subs do that work. We have some really dedicated long-term subs who take multiple. We have a lot of folks on leaves right now, maternity leaves and other good, things like that. So those positions are paid, the 160 and 190 are paid higher. The 190, you can only stay in a position as a sub for that amount of time because you have a credential. So you have a credential, a full credential. Otherwise, a substitute can only stay in a special education class for 20 days and can only stay in a general education class for 30 days. And we monitor that very closely. Kudos to Catherine Cardozo, who is our substitute specialist, does an amazing job and tracks all of that. So a teacher in any given year can only be in that classroom so many days. And so the people who are in the 190 are people who have credentials that do those long-term.
So why don't you have that on this form? Because it's not showing anything except just day-to-day and long-term.
Mm-hmm. So, well, we can structure it however the board would like. This is just an idea for consideration. So the day-to-day is 200 and any long-term 20 days or 30 days would be retro back to 225. So they would get an additional amount of money because they took on that long-term position. So they would only get that if they've served in that same job in consecutive days. And it does have to be consecutive days for 20 days or more.
Okay, and then my other question is, you spent quite a bit of time this last summer and last spring training subs that to use our distance learning and all this kind of, you had classes and they're the words for these people. How are we going to do that again? Are we going to train these people? Because
So
they're
actually-
all new ones.
So, and I've included also praise for the Ed Services team. who working with Catherine have picked up that. So right prior to the beginning of school, when we realized we were going to have a distance learning model, and we had several teachers out on leave, they were offered multiple days of training. Since then, that has even actually, I think, been enriched even further. There's actually printed resources and videos and other things. So any new sub for distance learning, we do offer them a day of training and even more, so that they can kind of become familiar. It is not everybody wants to do distance learning. Some people just want to do the in-person, and some want to do the distance learning. So that training is specific to the distance learning model, so people feel comfortable with the Google Classroom and how to operate in that. And Ed Service is the expert in that, and so they lead that and take care of that and work with Catherine on making sure that that happens for people.
And do they have to be credentialed, or are they only the CSET?
So they can have a 30-day sub permit. So they could have they have a sub permit, and they could be credentialed. They could have a preliminary clear credential, and they don't want to be in the classroom. They just want to sub. We do have people that do that who only want to work a couple days a week, and actually do that for us every week. But yes, they all have to have a credential. You're not allowed to be a substitute without. You can have a substitute permit.
Which
and
is
that
passing the CSET, right?
it's passing the CBEST.
CBEST.
CBEST, and they have to have their certificate of clearance. So they've been fingerprinted through the state of California and received that part. Of course, we also do that for our district.
Okay.
And then they have to have passed the CBEST and have a bachelor's degree. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not going to be putting inexperienced, new CBEST passing people who are madly run out and get their CBEST so they can be a substitute for $200 or plus a day. You're going to do a lot of preparation for them, right? We're not just going to be putting a bunch of people in the class. I see a mass stampede to different districts for people that have not been working in the work field and see this as an opportunity to make quite a good bit of money a day.
So I can't anticipate exactly, but so and one of the issues actually has been is that with the pandemic, the actual testing, CSET, CBEST, all those things are also impacted by that. So it's actually kind of problematic, has been for people, but the, I think people who want to work with kids want to do these jobs, and a lot of these folks are either going into the teaching program or they're thinking about the teaching program. Sometimes they've taught preschool, or they've taught in other ways. They have coaching experience, they have other experiences with kids, and they want to see if teaching is what they want to do. That's pretty common. We also have retirees who want to come back and teach for us a little bit. And so we have that opportunity as well.
Okay, I guess what I would lean to, if I were you guys, I would lean to student teaching, kids that are in the student teaching program, because I'm very nervous about, this sudden rush of all the districts upping their money just so they can get bodies in the room or bodies online. And that concerns me very much. I understand the desperation of having them, but at the same time, I think we don't want just bodies in the room. We want people that are qualified to be in that room and, safe to be in that room or in that line. So I guess that's my concern. And I will, with that, I guess that's all I can say. You kind of know how I feel.
Thank
Well,
you
let
for
me just-
sharing that.
Let me just add, Cindy,
Yes.
that it might encourage current board members who got their sub-credential last February before the bottom fell out of the school system, and who doesn't want to touch substitute
Don't you
teaching,
dare. Don't
distance
you dare.
learning from a 10-foot pole. It might encourage us to say,
Are-
okay, maybe.
Are old women who have sold their businesses.
Well, or that. They're that. She's right. It's a, for those looking to get in the game or maybe back in the game, there's a lot of different motivators and the process is it's not a here today, gone in the door tomorrow. It's quite extensive. You have to go through the county, and then each district has to interview you and accept you. So it's not a
Yeah,
golden
I
ticket
know,
that you
I
get
know
in a
that.
candy bar.
But I
Very
also,
good.
as a delegate, I hear horror stories about what's happening in some of these sub rooms too. So,
Sure. Okay, very good. Any other questions by board members before we move on? This will be voted on in the actions section of our meeting. If not, we'll go ahead and continue. As we mentioned, letter E has been pulled for this
Thank you.
meeting. Thank you, Dee Dee. And we'll move on to safety and facilities update. I believe Mr. Frederickson mentioned that there'll be a specific item being discussed. Yes.
Yeah, I have Lizette sharing our COVID safety plan.
Yes, and I'm going to start by sharing my screen to just show you on our website where we have this displayed. So let me do a quick share here. So this is our website, and if you click here on the COVID-19 box, you get all kinds of wonderful links and information, and then you scroll down here and you'll see our COVID-19 safety plan. You can click on that and it brings you to this page, and this page has a little bit of a descriptor here, and Mr. Frederickson alluded to this in his update in terms of our new guidance and requirements that came out from the California Department of Public Health. One of those includes the required posting of our COVID-19 safety plan. And the safety plan actually consists of two parts. First is a Cal OSHA COVID-19 prevention program, and that's the CPP, more acronyms to add to our repertoire. And the second is a COVID-19 school guidance checklist. So the CPP is the part that we kind of wanted to focus this around. The checklist is a lot of the information of what was in our waiver before, and it is putting it into a checklist format according to the new guidance that came out. However, the COVID prevention program, the CPP portion of this, is a newer portion that is meeting several of the new Cal OSHA requirements that have that are now in place, and really focus around employer safety and employer protection, and what things do we have in place to safeguard those and to respond to those. So, I mean, I'm not going to go into it in depth, but I just wanted to show you it on the website and then show you that it's here. And a little bit of the work that it was definitely a teamwork, as everything we do. And Dee Dee took really the spearheaded this with conversations with Keenan, our property and liability insurance providers, and getting a template and getting us started in a lot of these. This is completely brand new. Some of the things, or I would say the vast majority, are things that we had identified, whether in MOUs, whether in our plans or reopening plans, and really things that are in place. A few of the new things are around testing and response testing, really, and as new requirements that are in here. So we went through as a team, as an executive leadership team, and reviewed this, updating accordingly, inserting a lot of our training and things, that procedures and practices that we have in place in terms of addressing overall safety, but this is focused on the employee safety. You saw a lot of those in the presentation that just came to you recently from Sean. And so a lot of that's in place here, the trainings, the protocols, the forms. You'll see those throughout this document. And then we also, because this is a lot of new requirements, very specific requirements from Cal OSHA, we had a risk, gosh, I'm sorry, I'm losing the word here, but we had somebody who is
A consultant.
Yes, thank you. In this area of expertise, specifically more on the employee liability and safety side of it, go through this and really helped us, one, just vet it for these new requirements. And two, it was really a good experience. And I think Dee Dee can agree. Her and I went through that with her, and just affirming a lot of the things that we have in place, and that we are, while there's a lot of new things that have come our way that are very challenging, we have a lot of good procedures and protocols and training and practices in place to address so many of these needs. So I think that about kind of just gives you a summary and overall of the why and the how of how this new document came to be. And I don't know if Dee Dee, is there anything else you think I missed that you want to chime in, or Eric, but happy to take any questions if not.
Okay, I'm looking. Hang on.
This plan looks different than what's on our, is this, I'm trying to look at my computer and see my attachment. It doesn't look the same. Is this just a part of that, or what?
You're looking at your attachment for this particular agenda item. I don't believe this actually had the attachment on it. This, what I pulled up was actually straight from our website.
Okay.
Because that's where this plan is posted on our website. And that's actually specifically from the requirements that we had this posted on our website.
And this is a fluid document. As more guidance comes and recommendations and directives, we will update this. When we do that too, we're also talking to our bargaining units to make sure that we've heard any concerns or input that they have as well. And so this is what this is now, but there will be times we will repost it and revise it, and we'll update the dates depending on new guidance and recommendations.
Yes.
Well, am I the only one that's confused here? I'm very confused, because are we on facilities, safety and facilities update, or are we on facilities and subcommittee policy?
Okay, so that one was pulled, Cindy. I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh,
when we posted
I
the agenda.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, right. That's right. You joined late. Yeah, we pulled that
Okay.
because we're not ready to present that to the board at this time. So
Okay, that's why I was so confused. And I was scrolling and scrolling.
got
Okay.
it. Sorry, that's what happened there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dee Dee. I have a quick question. I was trying to jump on the website. Are you able to just throw up on the screen or show us where to find the dashboard that you created for our Sylvan schools that shows currently what our COVID situation looks like? I know that it's informative for our parents to see,
It's on our Friday update.
some of the but it's on our website. Some of the challenges that we face in opening classrooms, and how many are currently open, or on there it says, right, how many are currently closed due to exposure. It's not on there. I couldn't see it.
It reports. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, so sorry. Go ahead. I'll just click on them and show.
Okay.
Click on
It
there and show them.
reports active cases in a 14-day window from the last time. There it is. And then it also has a cumulative number so that there's transparency in that as well. And we did get word from a couple of sites that they think a couple numbers for just how much staff is on site, or maybe students on site, will might need an adjustment. So we're going back through that, making sure. But the ones that I think people are interested, of course, are in the total confirmed cases and active positive cases. And it actually combines the students and staff numbers.
Okay, so if you have over there total number of active positive cases and you see a 1, then you can infer that there is one classroom at that site that is currently closed, correct?
That is such a good question. Not necessarily, actually.
Okay.
So there is very possible that there's an active case, a confirmed case, and it did not require a classroom closure. It can be, that can happen. It doesn't require, it could be a staff member who isn't part of that picture, so that wasn't required, or depending on quarantine windows and other data. So that's So the total number, I think Carrie Albert gave an update last Friday, I think, if not the Friday before, and gave a snapshot to the board as well about how many total classrooms had closed and where those locations were.
Right.
And we talked about that, and we'll continue to kind of present that for you as well, and keep you updated in addition to this.
Okay, but is that something then we've decided not to make, available to families themselves? I mean,
No, the families are notified. Anytime a classroom is closed at a site, the school, both the staff and families are notified that a classroom's closed. And of course, the kids that are involved also do that. And so this does reflect, I mean, I understand what you're saying. You could infer that that's a closed class and many times it is, but it is possible that there could be a couple that are not actually classroom closure, but just a positive case.
Okay, but you can get a general idea. I'm looking across the district and there's potentially 6 classrooms that are currently closed due to COVID exposure out of all our classrooms. Is that a accurate inference or no?
And you can see that like some of those are not at an actual school site. So then you have to kind of take that. Remember also at middle schools, there are a small group of special education classrooms and then just childcare. So not a lot of kids, present right now at middle school, but certainly at the elementary schools. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other questions by board members? Not seeing any, so we'll move on. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go on to our first action item. I'm on the right spot. We'll adopt the resolution 2021 recognizing our school nurses and health services.
And I am honored I get to present this for Carrie tonight, as she's not here. We are presenting this resolution to recognize our Sylvan Union District School Health Service and nursing staff. And we do this every year. This is my second time, actually. It was a couple of years ago presenting this to the board. But boy, is this even more important, right? To recognize during the COVID times I'm just going to name it COVID times that we're in right now, and the amazing work our nurses are doing to support us through all of this new learning and health, and wellness for us. So school nurses do a lot of things. They work closely with the special education department. They're essential to us as well. And they get training beyond school nursing. So a school nurse has specialized training in how to work in nursing with school districts. They're advocates for our children. They plan, they implement, they evaluate health services. Currently, they're working with families, right? They always work with families, but they're really working with families now as well, to support their needs and questions and concerns as we're all learning and having those questions and concerns during this time. Carrie has shared in meetings some of the new systems they're creating on the fly to support us in monitoring the health and safety of our students and staff. And you just looked at some of that information that we get directly from them in terms of our students and that data. So we are recommending that you approve this and adopt this resolution for our school and recognize our school's health and nursing staff.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, I was muted. Motion's been made by Mr. Raw, and was it Mrs. Talcott? Was that you?
Yes.
That seconded? Okay, second by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, the motion carries. A big warm thank you to all of our healthcare workers and the job they do and the demands that have been placed on them this year in particular. And I'm just really grateful for all you do. And if there's any here, we would normally have you stand, but maybe we can just give you that, show the love for what you do for our kids. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead with action item B, approving the memorandum of understanding with Sylvan Union School District and Sylvan Educators Association regarding COVID leave. Dee Dee.
Thank you. So for the board's approval, a memorandum of understanding with SEA or Sylvan Educators Association. This in December 31st, 2020, our emergency paid sick leave offered through FFCRA through the government expired. Both parties agree that we continue to have a need due to COVID in our community for folks to be able to stay home when they are directed to quarantine or isolate, either by us and HR or by a medical professional. We actually at our next board meeting will also be bringing one for CSEA when they go through their process, and we'll be bringing an MOU for them as well. So for the board's approval, the memorandum of understanding for COVID leave for 10 additional days as needed and is approved by HR and directed by medical professionals or public health.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Looking for a motion. Motion's been made by Mrs. Lindsay, second by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Ra,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. The motion carries. Our next item is approved temporary certificated substitute pay increase for February through May 2021. This is what we just talked about in our information discussion. Looking for a motion.
So motion.
Motion's been made by Mrs. Talcott,
Second.
second by Ms. Harvey. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Ra,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just say on behalf
Yes.
of our teachers, our administrative staff, and all of our support staff, we really appreciate the board's support. I know this is not a small item, and we truly want to share our gratitude with your support of our staff so that we can fill the vacancies that we have. So thank you for that.
Well, and we'd like to reflect that right back at you. Thank you for those who have been flexible, like the Incredibles mom. She's the one that can just stretch in all different directions. Thank you for covering for your teammates. Thank you for just being in first grade one day and science the next day, or whatever it is that's required of you. Thank you, because that's keeping our kids in school. So appreciate that. Sorry. Let's go ahead with the revisions to our 2021 board meeting schedule. Mr. Frederickson.
Again, the impact of COVID on some of the plans that we had, and we just need to make sure if, with those revisions that, like some of our site visits and things that were on there, we just needed our calendar back up to date. We have a copy of that we can look at.
I just had one clarifying question. Please tell me you didn't have a crystal ball that's saying that we positively will not be able to visit Woodrow in October whenever that one was cut off. I thought, come on, can we just not leave that on there for hope? And then we can take it off.
You can always add it.
Please. Okay.
Leave it on there.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Lindsay. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Ra,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, our last item for our action item is approving expenditure of construction funds. I don't know if there's any clarifying that needs to be made there, but if not, I'm looking for motion.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
Go ahead,
Go
George.
I raised my hand, my little hand.
I
Did
see
you-
it.
I can't see a hand. I don't know what you're talking
Can't
about.
see it. It's a little yellow hand at the bottom of his screen.
I don't get
Nope.
it on mine. All right, George. It's done.
Missing out.
It's yellow.
Go ahead.
Yes, clarification. I sent a question ahead of time. Is this the final payment? And if it is, the follow-up question was, are all items off of the punch list? And what is the resolution with respect to concrete?
yes, I was just going to point out that you had sent in a question. So I can answer that. So we have, besides the concrete that you mentioned, we have some tiles, if you recall, had talked about some tiles that were cracked and they were looking to replace. They have said that they will be replacing those at the end of this month. They've had a quite a challenge, I think, locating, because it's a much older tile. So they've had a challenge in locating that color or type. But they have sent me an email saying that those would be replaced by the end of the month. And then the concrete, the latest update that I have before that, I don't think it's much changed from the Friday update, but what it is that they went out and they assessed the spalling, they call it, or cracking of the concrete. And that those areas are the areas from the very beginning of the project. So that is about a year old. And will continue to monitor that and see if there's some of the more newer concrete that was poured, once that cures, if there's additional cracking, they would like to do it all at once and fix it all at once. So they proposed monitoring that over the next few months, to see if there's any additional, and if it is, like I said, they would prefer to do it all at once. If the board, they have said if we want them to go out and take care of that now and wait and have to come back for the other later, they're open to hearing that dialogue back from us if that's what we want. But that is what they have proposed to remedy that, and would come back to remedy it, but they preferred to do it all in one trip.
Understood. So follow-up questions would be are we saying that all the rest of the punch lists are done?
Aside from the tile, the concrete, and then obviously we have the locker issue that's outstanding.
Right.
But
so where do we stand with the closeout on the building then? The closeout of the project?
Are you referring to with DSA
with the
and
state of
the
California.
paperwork? That piece I would have to confirm with Josh exactly on where the where it is in the process of submitting that. So I could confirm that and follow up with providing that information to the board, and or also to we've scheduled, as you and Mrs. Miyakawa know, a meeting on Thursday with our facilities subcommittee. And so I could also follow up with that information and inform the rest of the board as well.
Okay, so here's my concern. I think I'm willing to approve some of it, but not all of it. I don't care if they come back in one time or two times. I think we need to have a contingency held out for it until it's done. Once you write the final check, I've been around the block at least half the time. You'll never get them back, and they'll always come up with an excuse and push it off. But as long as we hold a contingency in the bank, which I'm assuming once we write this final check, the contingency's all off and they're 100% paid in full. Am I correct?
Correct, because according to the payment schedule that's a part of the agreement, this does not work like some other maybe hard bids. This is a lease back, if we recall, and there's a specific payment schedule. And once that final payment is done, there's not a separate contingency, 10%, or sometimes that you normally have in other types of projects.
I understand that, and that's fine. The problem that I have though is writing them a check for the whole amount. So I don't know what that appropriate amount is, whether that amount should be 50,000 or 100,000. I think they're wanting about 300 and some thousand, but it should be some amount that we should hold until the concrete is resolved and the project is closed out with the state, and that the state says, oh, well, you didn't do something, and then they come back and now what do we do? I mean, I'm willing to forgive the locker issue, because I do not believe the locker issue is a contractor issue. That's a district and a architect issue. The concrete clearly is their subcontractor's responsibility. I've been in construction a long time in my life, and I can tell you that concrete is concerning to me, not for the cracks, all concrete cracks. That concrete is crumbling, and crumbling is very different than cracking. And that's a concern to me that that's crumbling. I think there's a serious problem there, and it could be a big ticket item. So I don't want to get in an arguing match with the contractor over whether the concrete is faulty or not faulty. If we need to bring somebody in independently or not, I think we need to do it now. So again, I'm not going to vote to approve this. I'll vote to approve a portion of it, 50, 75% of it. But I think at a minimum, we should be holding back 50,000, at least until the concrete is resolved and the tile is resolved, and we can get a closeout on this project. And I know that might be a big ask, and you probably don't like to hear that from me, and I'm sorry. But you know, when I joined the board 20-some years ago, we had to go back and close out this project because it never got closed out. Like 10 years passed before it got closed out, or maybe 5 or so. I don't remember. I don't want that to happen again.
And a lawsuit too.
Well, yeah, we won't go into that. But if we can get it closed out and the concrete resolved and the tile resolved, that would be really nice. And if we held on to something, I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm not going to get them back on the job site unless I have some of their money in my bank account.
Lizette, how much are we actually asking us to pay them? I can't tell.
It's 300 and some grand, isn't it?
No,
So
it's
the final payment is, I have the payment schedule here.
Is it
500 and, I believe it's 500 and some thousand.
I thought it was 687,939.
I'm looking at 2 or 3 different numbers here, and I'm just very confused.
Sorry, give me just a moment to pull it
I'm
up.
pulling it up.
We got 687,000.
Oh, that's true. You're
Okay.
right. 100. So what if we approved 600 grand and just held out the last 87, or held out 80 grand, or at least 50 grand to 50 grand's not going to cover a concrete job if
No.
that all got to be removed out of there.
I would say we'll pay 500 grand and hold out the other 187 till the concrete's all taken care of. That's a lot of money to give them anyway.
Well, they deserve to be paid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not,
No,
no,
I'm not even.
they deserve to be paid, but I don't like this idea of kicking the can down the road with the concrete issue. And because I think there's a problem with it. Personally, there's something wrong with that concrete, and I don't know what it is. And I don't know if they're coming right out and telling us straight on it, but it's crumbling. In certain spots, it's crumbling, and it's concerning to me.
Okay, so I've heard from George and Cindy, who both would like a portion held back. I need to hear from Holly and Christine, please.
I will defer to George's decision because haven't seen any of it.
Okay, very good. Christine?
Yeah, I think if Mr. Rosman feels that there is an issue, then, I trust his judgment on that. And I definitely think then let's go with holding something back. I also think, again, Mr. Ross right with saying that they do need to be paid. So I guess it's just a matter of how much we hold back, just to make sure. I don't know if we can do that or if we have to. I'm not sure the policy at this point, so.
Well, traditionally, isn't it 10% on a bid, not a lease, but it's 10% that's held back until everything's finished. So maybe we should just go with the 10%.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of an amount and a specific, 10% is usually a number, but I will need to, depending on the direction given by the board, I will need to take this and check and see. what we can do, because according to the contract, there's a payment schedule, and that's what's part of the contract. So, but I will definitely take whatever.
But part of the
direction from you.
contract is that they finish the job too.
Correct.
So part of this is a schedule. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So,
I don't disagree with paying them, but they can't use the argument that they're done with the project, because they're not done with the
No,
So
And-
they're asking to be paid, but the project isn't done. And if they can some way resolve the concrete issue, the tile issue, and the closing out the school, and it's reasonable, I'm willing to be reasonable with them. But I just don't want to write them a check for the full amount today and have those three things outstanding, and then we can't get them resolved or get them to come back on the job.
well, how about I make the motion that we hold back 10% like we would on any other bid project, and then we'll, that's it, that's like in between what you were saying, like around 60,000, right? Lizette?
10% would be, it would be about 68,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
60,
Are you-
round off to 60. You
Are
know,
we
I
on the
mean,
rails on this, Lizette, or are you okay with this? And Eric, because, but I would like to hear what you think.
I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from. I'm just thinking purely from a contractual standpoint. We would need to see what we could do. And, they may be, despite what's in contract, they might be willing to have that conversation and open to that. But I mean, I do have to just have that conversation with them. And I know that they're, from our past conversations, they're interested in having a good working relationship with the district. And so I think they would understand that we have concerns about those things. But again, if we want to get technical and see what's in writing, that may take us down a different road.
Okay?
And so if that's where it's going to go, then I would probably want to come back to the board and ask for us to make a different decision.
Lizette, fiduciarily, we have responsibility to the community. And it would be foolish of us to pay this money out knowing that the job's not finished. So, and they know the job's not finished. So it's a tit for tat as far as I'm concerned. If it's a contractual issue, they haven't finished the job. We haven't finished paying. So it's, to me, I don't think it will be a contractual issue because neither side has fulfilled the contract. So I don't think I don't think they would look badly upon it. I think they would expect it if as a business.
And in 3 weeks, we have another board meeting where we could release the last amount if they resolve these issues. They have 3 weeks to resolve the issues with us.
But they're waiting for that concrete to dry, George. So they want to see if it's going to split, if it's going to get worse.
Or expanded to other areas so that they can do a lot of work at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Could we just get it in writing saying that they're going to come back and they're going to fix whatever issues they are and then pay them?
Well, we did that before, Christine, on this school, and that's what George was talking about, that they never came back because it was such a minuscule amount of money that we owed compared to the millions that we put out on it, that they never came back.
Yeah, and I've been down that road before with the closing out on projects, and I've been stuck with the bill of having to hire additional
That's
architects
what we did.
to get my projects closed. So I would want to have some insurance that was taken care of. I agree that they need to finish everything before we make our payment. Well, we do need to check, contractually that we don't, get stuck with breaching a contract. But I totally agree with the board having those guarantees, and especially the closing out of the project. That's a total pain when they're paid and gone, and we're stuck with having to get it closed down the road.
right.
But I think it shows good faith that we're willing to give them such a large amount of the money and only hold 10%.
Yeah. Good. I think it's going to save Lizette and Eric and the board a lot of time by just holding their hand to the fire, saying, let's just get this done, get it signed off and get it finished so we can just move on to the next thing. And remember, we're educators. We're not construction people. Well, some of us are, but we should be out educating kids, not worrying about if concrete's popping all over the ground, you know?
Well, and the issue here is there's such a large amount of concrete that if it is faulty concrete, that's going to be a big chunk of change.
Yeah, it is.
So
There is recourse there and bonds and so forth. So I'm good. So there,
I'm not in favor of it. I'm sorry, George, I don't agree with you that we should hurry up and get it done. I think we should give them the time that they're asking, because I think in all fairness that they know that it's taken a year for that to start cracking. So maybe the other's going to take 6 months or so. I don't know.
Is there a motion, Mrs. Miyakawa?
I have heard a little bit of everything.
Okay, so
I-
I'll
I
clarify.
made a motion.
Okay, Mrs. Lindsay made a motion to approve the payment and hold back 10% until concrete, tile, and closing out the project is resolved. And I'll second it.
Okay, there we go. Mrs. Lindsay has made the motion. Mr. Ra has seconded it. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Ra,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. And I would add that that's pending contractual legality. You'll let us know how that goes. And
You'll let us know if we're legal or not.
Thank you.
very good. Thank you, Lizette. Let me go back to my, okay. All right, moving on to our final portion, as always, is the consent agenda. I would,
Jennifer, just
yes.
real quickly, may I ask, because I didn't see it in the Friday update, maybe I missed it. George, you made reference to the fact that you thought the lockers was an issue between the district and the architect. Where are we on that? What is the current status on that? What are we moving
So where
forward
we
on?
are, Reader's Digest, I mean, been a long process. I don't want to go through it. I'll just let you know what we're doing now is we're waiting for the prototype 12 by 12 by 24 locker. The contractor is to send us a prototype from the manufacturer to be visually inspected by the PE teachers and to see if that will actually work. If that will work, we will consider as a board whether to move forward with that. If that will not work, we need to go back to the drawing board and look for other solutions. But that's kind of where we are in the puzzle. We're waiting for that prototype to come back to us to see if it is a viable option.
Mr. Ron, have you taken in consideration as being involved in contracting, and me too, my father was, of actually building them as opposed to metal ones?
I don't think that's probably a
We
viable.
would certainly get the sizes we wanted.
Well, we can get the size. There's only certain sizes that'll fit. It's a very complex matter. I can tell you there have been hours of work going on in the background to get a resolution with this. We're working closely with the PE teachers at USTAT, with the principal, with our maintenance and facilities department, with Lizette. There's a lot of people that are working on this particular issue. We haven't brought it back to the board yet because we don't feel we have a viable solution today. We may soon, but we didn't want to bring it back until there's a solution to the problem. We know what the problem is. The current 12 by 12 by 12s are not going to work. So we need to find out what will work, and we will bring it back to the board when we have something that is a possibility that will work.
Okay, I was just throwing those out because they used to actually have wooden lockers and they work. So you just have locks on them.
Now you dated yourself, Cindy.
I didn't say I had them.
Just kidding. Great. I can't even remember what I was going to say after that. All right.
I don't think they had lockers when I was in school. What do you mean school? I didn't go to school. They didn't have school.
All right, let's finish this up, shall we? Our consent agenda is on there. I need to know if there's any item on here any board members have a question about first.
Oh, I did, but just a minute, I lost my agenda. Hold on one
Are you
second.
pointing to your there's no yellow hand in my screen, but you're pointing to a corner and I'm assuming that's a yellow hand, Mr. Ross.
I just have one question on one item. It does not need a separate vote.
Go ahead, please.
The question regards the obsolete equipment. I didn't notice that anyone wanted to buy this, Marty. Do you think you're going to be able to sell any of this?
So I actually have more items that I'm going to be bringing to the next board meeting. And at that time, I will include the items from tonight and the next board meeting all on one buyback quote.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Mrs. Lindsay, do you have a question?
No, I actually wanted to piggyback on that comment. I actually got very lucky this last week and ran into a gentleman that is does the actual purchasing of equipment like that. And I have his name and everything for you, Marty. So I'll send it to you. He's out of Sacramento, but they break it down and sell it. And so they purchase old equipment like that.
Go ahead and send it via email. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other items with questions? Seeing none, I need to know if there's any that would need to be pulled for a separate vote. Yes, Ms. Harvey.
I had a quick question, Mr.
Hold on.
One more question.
Hold on, Ms. Harvey.
I'm sorry, that was a misinterpretation of my hand signal. I do not have anything that needs to be.
Oh, gotcha. Just stretching.
Thank you.
You're pointing
Yes,
at that
thank you.
invisible yellow hand in your screen, so I was going for it. All right, Ms. Lindsay.
Yes, Mr. Frederickson, and looking at the SEPA plan, I'm not quite understanding. Is there in this committee of superintendents that's on that SEPA committee? Do they represent every district, or is there a representative from every district, or is there just how many people are actually on that group on that committee?
Yeah, they end up voting each year which superintendents are on that. In the past, Sylvan has had a superintendent on the committee. They voted this year to have different people. Dawn could give more updates on that. I've not been to any meetings because I'm not on the committee.
But my question is, if we're not on the committee and not every district is represented, how do they know what's going on? I mean, I belong to the county committee, and we have a heck of a time getting information from certain districts in the area just to give us information. How do they know what's going on at their SEPAs?
Yeah, Dawn, are you available on there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
can
sure.
you
Yeah.
represent us as well? Yeah, go ahead, Dawn.
Yeah, so historically, our superintendent's council for SELPA has had, I believe it's 7 members. They try to balance it between small school districts, medium school districts, large school districts. But the SELPA itself has a lot of checks and balances. So not just the superintendent's council votes on most things. It'll go to a program advisory committee, which I am on. Every director and every district has a representative. Program specialists have meetings, and then they have lots of individual subcommittee meetings as well. So even though they don't have every superintendent on superintendent's council, there's lots of avenues for our voice to be heard and represented.
Thank you. That answers my question. Just having directors come together, I just couldn't figure out how that works. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lindsay and seconded by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Hi.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, thank you. The motion carries. Okay, that wraps up our meeting today. Just the note that we'll have our next budget study session on February 23rd at 5 p.m., followed by our regular board meeting at 7. Many thanks to all those for getting this meeting organized and and all the work that went into that. We always appreciate the behind the scenes work that makes these things go off smoothly. So thank you to all the wizards behind the curtain for that. And we will be going back into closed session to finish up some items that we were unable to do before our open session. So we'll adjourn from closed session at this time, and we'll meet back in as a closed session board. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Good job, Jen.
Good night.